Pete Pardo here from Comic Book Geezers. Welcome to another edition of the show via Skype. We've got our third member of the Comic Book Geezers family. Kirk is on the Skype line. What's going on, my friend? How are you?
How's it going, man? Doing good, doing good.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Thanks, everyone, for joining. So Kirk and I decided today would be a good time as any to introduce for the first time on the history of the show. We have never really talked about Green Lantern, and it's like one of the few like big DC characters that we have not covered on the show, basically because neither Wild Bill or myself have any Green Lantern issues, but thankfully Kirk is going to save the day on that one. So this is going to be a Kirk run show. I'll add some color commentary, but Kirk's going to show some cool Green Lantern stuff from his collection, which I'm sure will be great to see. So I turn it over to you, my friend.
Hi, well, welcome again. Yeah, I like Green Lantern. I've got to admit, he's got a long history. You know, he goes back to the 40s. And he started out with, there's been several guys who've held the ring. We're going to start with the original Alan Scott Green Lantern, which I don't have any of the original books. They're they're from the 40s, and they're way out of my price range. So, but I do. You can buy like the archives editions, and that's what he looked like. If you guys don't know, he's supposed to appear in the new Stargirl series too. That's going to be on CW. Yeah, there's supposed to be some talk of him in this part, and he lives in Gotham City, so he lives in the same city as Batman. So
interesting. Okay.
And he started out like he runs his own radio station, all this other weird stuff. But the character is pretty cool. The outfit's a little gaudy, I've got to say, you know.
Yeah, not much of a fan. Now, was this particular Green Lantern in the Justice Society?
Yes.
Okay, thought so.
Right. So yeah, he's a founding member of the Justice Society. The character was quite popular until the 50s when all of the superhero books really kind of phased out, with the exception of basically like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. So he from like 55 to about 64, you didn't see any Green Lantern books until you had a reboot, and then they went with the Hal Jordan version. This is issue 29, and it's the first appearance of actually the Black Hand, who becomes a real villain. Like he becomes a bit of a badass in the series, but in this one, he's just this weird guy who cuts people in half with like this weird thing, you know. And he's like, it was real cheeseball stuff. But this is, you know, you're seeing Hal Jordan now has appeared as the Lantern, and you're also getting, whereas the original Alan Scott Lantern was more of a mystical character because it was like a magic lantern and all that fun stuff from a meteor that hit the Earth. This guy is a space cop, basically.
Okay.
You know, he belongs a member of the Guardians. Alan Scott, completely different kind of character in that aspect. But yeah,
Hal Jordan, arguably the most famous Green Lantern of all. Arguably, I say, because he was probably the most famous of the mid-period run. I mean, I think John Stewart probably, there would be some who would argue that, you know.
I got it. Yeah, that's the cool thing is there's you can kind of pick your own favorite Lantern, unlike Batman or Superman, where it's Batman or Superman. You know, you get who you get. You know, but this was kind of cool. Later on, DC started pairing up their Golden Age characters because they reopened them. So this is actually one of the early appearances of Hal Jordan and Alan Scott, kind of, you know, doing one of those hero beats heroes up, and then they become friends and then work on the common enemy. Also, you see the Guardians in the background.
Oh yeah.
So
that's a 12 center. So what's that about? 1965, 66?
Yeah. Yeah, it's an early appearance. I'm going to be honest with you. I bought these so long ago, I couldn't even tell you half the stuff because I mean, I think I bought this probably in the early 90s. So,
okay.
Yeah, we're talking like almost 30 years ago. So, I hate to say the brain cells don't work that far back anymore. But the cool thing too about the new reboot of the Green Lantern was you had different lanterns because that was where they start, you know, spurring out because he's technically like a space cop. So, each person gets a sector. So you had all these cool aliens with that all had their own power rings and all that. And, you know, they started expanding on that. Again, it's kind of weird because Green Lantern initially really wasn't as popular a character as he's become lately. You know, there was a period where that was kind of a really like a third tier book. It wasn't up there with like a Superman or Batman book. It's only, I
So,
think,
so when did this character kind of take off? Because I recall, like when I was a kid, you didn't hear about Green Lantern all that much in the '70s, but by like the '80s and especially into the '90s, the character started to really take off. Did that have to do with like the cartoons and things like that?
I
Is
think
that?
a lot of it, I think too, they were smart. They diversified the character a lot more. Um, because like the earlier stuff isn't really good. I mean, you don't really see like the original Green Lantern run wasn't that popular. It wasn't until you saw the Neil Adams
Mm,
and you know Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil started working on their run of the book, which is considered classic. That put some hype into the series, but and I got to admit, like you see Green Arrow, I'm going to say the Green Lantern Green Arrow books I think are the best. If you're going to buy these books, for the classic books, my advice is get the ones with Green Arrow. I think
yeah,
that's just,
the only thing I have is I have a like a graphic novel that's got a bunch of those stories in it, and those are pretty good with the two teaming up.
yeah. Did you get the ones because what happened is then they ended up cutting. They went back after that team left the book. They went back and they did a couple of issues of Green Lantern that was just Green Lantern, and that didn't work out so well because everybody was like, eh. And the book ended up getting canceled. But then it came back, and they were like, "Hey, let's do this again." And they put Mike Grell on the work, and I think Mike Grell is a great artist. He helped create the Warlord. He's done besides Neil Adams, in my opinion, he does the most accepted version of Green Arrow. He's just insane. So there were a whole bunch of Green Lantern, Green Arrows done, and these were done late '70s, early '80s. Um, I said you just kind of see like a whole bunch of these, and as I said, these are real good run. They also have,
Good covers on those.
yeah, these are again all Mike Grell. Some of these, as I said, for some reason at one point he cuts off the beard.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work,
It
right? I
doesn't
was
work
the
at
honest.
all.
I was like, oh no, put that back on.
Too much
So,
chin there, Ollie. Too much chin.
yeah, we last for 2 issues with no beard. Thank God we were like Grell. Somebody yelled at him and said, "Dude, put the beard back on." So, you know, and again, you're seeing different lanterns pop up, and the art is really good. These are really, and these aren't expensive. You can get these at a reasonable price still. And as I said, a lot of stuff with like the Black Canary as well in these books. And for whatever reason, they always had with Green Lantern books, they always had like huge boxing things. Ollie, there was always like, you know, Ollie had the arrow with the boxing glove on it, and the lantern too. And there was always big boxing hitting people upside the head. But and I would say like this went on for a while. There was a 100th issue that you see Airwave, who was another Golden Age character, makes his reappearance in this series. Yeah, and these are you can get these for a couple of bucks. I still think, but as I said, for some reason they cut again. They went back to just Lantern after a certain period. And I think for a long time, that really didn't seem to cover it. It wasn't until later that they started realizing that, you know what, we should look at the different lanterns. So they ended up pulling in Kyle Rayner, John Stewart, as we talked about. And I don't have, I'm like trying to think if I've got any with John Stewart in it. No, not with me. But, you know, you see, and then they started pairing out the different things. They started doing like, as I said, they would do team ups with like, you know, Kyle Rayner, who replaced Hal Jordan, because Hal Jordan went as a villain for a while. You know, he destroyed the universe and all that stuff. He went dark, and they replaced him with Kyle Rayner, who I liked, and I thought those books were interesting because it was different characters and stuff. But then they were like, we'll bring Hal Jordan back. It's like nobody stays dead or whatever in these books, anyways.
No, of course not.
So, and they actually ended up making Hal Jordan for a while the Spectre, which was like it was if you watch the Crisis on Earth, you know, with the Arrow universe there, that was the whole thing where, you know, he becomes the Spectre at the end.
Spoiler alert, everyone.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that, man.
It's been out for a couple of months. I'm sure everybody's seen it.
But you know, as I said, you start seeing like, as I said, they started focusing on books on different types of Green Lanterns too, because you could get there's red lanterns, blue lantern, indigo lantern, you know, it's just yellow lantern. I mean, it was orange lanterns. There's just lanterns on top of lanterns.
Oh yeah.
So, and the only thing I think is it gets a little complicated to read all this stuff because now you've got like 6 lantern books going on at the same time.
I've noticed like the modern stuff. Like I tried to get into like was the Blackest Night
Yeah.
series and what have you. I mean, that just got so complicated that I couldn't even follow along because they were running that storyline simultaneously in so many different books, so many different Lantern books, and then that was popping up in Superman and just all over the place. And I just couldn't. That was like just went right over my head. But a lot of people like that stuff, right? That went over really well, that whole storyline.
And you know what? I think that's a great thing if you're talking 60 cents a book. When you can go and you can drop $30 and you can buy pretty much everything on the shelf if you want.
Not $4, right?
No. When you're dropping $200 or $300 to walk out with a stack of books, how many people can afford to do that? I think that's where comics have kind of bought themselves out of the field. They've just gotten too expensive, and they've got to kind of scale it back a bit with all these giant crossovers. So
it's ridiculous. I mean, how many fans now, instead of buying all the individual books, wait 6 months for the trade book to come out that's got everything in one volume for $30 or whatever it cost, right? Because that's what I've been doing with the DC stuff over the last bunch of years. I wait and I go buy the collections because I can't be bothered going month to month because you could literally drop $100 a week on all the new stuff that comes out because it's like $4 or $5 each.
And I hate to say it like that, there's not as much content in it. You burn through the book in like 5 minutes.
2 seconds. Yeah, I agree.
And so I'm kind of like, if I'm going to drop $4 or $5, I mean, you can buy, and if you wait a couple of months after the graphic novel comes out, you can usually get it for like $8 or $9 and sit down. I just bought the first part of the Doomsday Clock because I didn't want to buy it when it came out. I read the original Watchmen series, and it cost me $15 for 6 issues. You know, that becomes more important.
Yeah.
But getting back to the Green Lantern, because that was why we're here today. As you see, like the books become better. Like some of the art on these are really great. I mean, like you look at Sinestro, and I know I shouldn't even speak of it. I did see the Green Lantern movie. It was all right. I mean, I know some people.
I didn't think it was awful. Yeah.
So I know some people are like, but yeah, I was like, that was pretty good. Oh, it's a double.
Well, you got 2 of those.
Yeah, these actually come straight out of my shop. I was doing it because I grabbed some newer ones. Because no offense, this is the stuff that I think is great, and if you want to collect it, great. It's not the stuff I personally collect. I read it and kind of. Somebody actually I gave me a box of Green Lantern books about 6 months ago, and I've just been I kind of listed them for sale on my shop, so I'm trying to get rid of them. But as you can see, like the Black Hand, remember we saw him before as that geeky guy who was cutting people in half with a little thing. Now he becomes more of a psychotic, really kind of a badass. And he's raising the dead, and he's not being nice, and he's trying to kill people. It's a lot more. To me, it's become a better character. Here's another part, the Revenge of the Black Hand.
That's a great cover. Wow.
Yeah, isn't it? I'll be honest with you. He when you look at the 2 books, it's like, hold on, we'll go back to the original one. When you look at, like, who are you more fearful of? I know personally, I'm looking at, I'm going to say, definitely a changeover for the character. But the other cool thing is they have, as I said, they've entered new lanterns. You're seeing different characters pop up. There's a female lantern. There's a black lantern. There's just tons of lanterns. And I think that's cool because, as I said, if you like this character, you can find a character I think much more. It's more diverse. It's much more somebody you can more relate to. I like the fact now that there is literally a superhero for everybody. So,
yeah, there is. That's true.
Well, that's kind of it. I'll bring out get some of the cooler and another Black Hand appearance, as you can see.
He's popping up everywhere. That's a great cover too. Holy moly!
Yeah, look at that. So that's kind of badass. As I said too, much more tough guy. See, everybody's got a lantern too. There's somebody building lanterns out there who's making a fortune for it. That's his career, I guess. Everybody's. Here's another kind of cool one. But as I said, I think this book is actually one of the better books out there now. If you're going to buy newer books, because I've read some of the stuff and it's pretty solid. But again, you got to have some deep pockets, or you do like I do and you just buy the graphic novels.
That makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. We got some good stuff there.
All right.
Puts my Green Lantern collection to shame. With non-existent, right? But I've, you know what? I might actually have like a couple issues. Because I know when the new 52 came out, I started buying a lot of the first couple of issues of a lot of those different books. I actually may have the first or the second. And I do have, like I said, one of the Blackest Night graphic novels, and I have the Neil Adams Arrow and Lantern crossover. I have that. So I do have a couple things. So awesome. Well, thanks, Kirk, for showing us some of these classic and new Green Arrow gems here. Not Green Arrow, Green Lantern. It's like third time I said this episode. Get it straight, Pete. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining us on another lockdown special here. We're trying to bring you guys as many videos as we can while everybody's kind of home, chilling out, waiting for the coronavirus to end. Hopefully it will sometime soon. But while we're waiting, we'll continue to talk comic books here on Comic Book Geezers. So thanks to Kirk once again for joining us. He and I are coming back again. We're going to talk about a little independent comic company called, was it Grandview? Grandview Comics. We're going to be doing that soon too. We've also got a bunch of episodes with Wild Bill's joining me, and sometime over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see if we can get all three of us on once again and do it via Zoom or Skype or something like that. Cool. So we'll figure that out too. So thanks again, guys. For Kirk, I am Pete. We'll see you guys real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.